It's important to patients and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 59, Thursday partly sunny with a high near 71, and Friday a chance for rain with a high around 44. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson, or at hazelsnetogo.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, this is All Over Civic Media Network, and this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. We're here and we talk about Native issues, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. And I just want to give a big shout out to this portion's brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. We got a big jam-packed show here. We got Ogama with the news. We got Jen McEwen coming in and speaking her truth, and then welcoming back Bob Blake from Red Lake, and we're going to be just breaking down some political stuff and having a nice conversation. You know, we talk about Native issues and Native events, and we also have Native news that you don't hear anywhere else. So why don't we start out real quick in a good way with Ogama with the news.
Bonjour, Anin, everybody. This is Ogama Ganuakwe. I am a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota, and I've got some news for you here on Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Awesome event coming up this Friday, November 11th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Warrior Women Project team is going to have an evening of learning from the oral histories of Minneapolis matriarchs of the Red Power movement, featuring Madonna Thunderhawk, Marcella Gilbert, and Beth Castle. They'll also have archival media from Laura Waterman Whitstock and Pat Ballinger. They're also hosting a free screening of the award-winning documentary Warrior Women and sharing never-before-seen film clips of oral history interviews straight from the Warrior Women Project archives to honor the impact of Twin Cities' very own Pat Ballinger and Laura Waterman Whitstock, whose advocacy and leadership has changed the world for future Indigenous communities. You can email info@warriorwomen.org with any questions, but make sure you go to Warrior Women Project to get the details. Again, that's 7 to 9 p.m. Friday, November 11th at the National Women's Studies Association's annual conference at the Hilton in Minneapolis. Really exciting event coming up next Friday. So wanted to touch base also to remind everybody that next Tuesday, it is time to vote. Make Voting a Tradition is an awesome service that's provided by the Native American Community Development Institute. And they just want to remind everybody that we are really living in a critical time for Indian country. Climate chaos is threatening land and water and our communities, but we have power if we stand together. We need to build power for Native people by mobilizing a multi-generational turnout for Native voters in Minnesota and make sure our voices are heard. We can protect our lands and our waters through our right to vote. Voting is a way that we can fight for our future. So if you have not made a pledge to vote yet, please go over to makevotingatradition.org and pledge to bring yourself, your aunties, uncles, cousins, sisters, brothers, grandparents, and any other relatives you can get to come with you to the polls. You can register at the polls. You can find that information again on makevotingatradition.org, or you can find information on nativevote.org and get your information ready to go so that you are able to be prepared when you show up to vote. You know what your rights are and you can exercise that right. We're kicking off Native American Heritage Month. It's November 2nd. It started yesterday. And WASH MN, or We Are Still Here Minnesota, wanted to alert everybody that the author of the acclaimed book Braiding Sweetgrass now has a new version for young adults. And to kick off Native American Heritage Month, the author, Monique, is in Minnesota for a series of appearances and to help promote and talk about her award-winning New York Times bestseller book, Braiding Sweetgrass. So again, Monique Gray Smith is in Minnesota for a series of appearances for her new adaptation of Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass, and she's got Braiding Sweetgrass for young adults. The book is officially released as of yesterday, November 1st, and the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community is also offering copies of that book for schools around the state who are interested in pursuing or sharing that book with their students. So definitely head on over to the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community's Facebook and social media to find out how you can get a copy of Braiding Sweetgrass for young adults, provided to you by the generous people of the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community. That is an exciting thing that is coming up here as well. You know, I'm going to bring it back to voting as well and remind everybody that ICT, formerly Indian Country Today, does have a new list of Indigenous candidates throughout the nation. They have an interactive list now, actually. So throughout the U.S., there's dozens of Indigenous candidates that are seeking public office. 11 Indigenous candidates are running for Congress, and the midterm elections include the possibility of having the first Native candidate serve in the Senate since 2005. Other candidates are looking for seats at the state level, and Indian Country Today has awesome, awesome list of people who might be running in your area. And you can go and find all of that information on their website, indiancountrytoday.com. It's currently the headline for today, but if you just look for the list of Indigenous candidates for Native Vote 2022, they're doing some really fantastic coverage. Hashtag Native Vote 2020, or excuse me, Native Vote 22 is ICT's hashtag for voting this year. Also, just wanted to highlight that our neighbors over in South Dakota had a ruling come down this week. Court found that the state of South Dakota had violated federal voting registration laws, and it has really reignited a huge concern over Native American ballot access in the state, just as they're coming into a governor's election in the state of South Dakota. There's about 78,000 Indigenous residents and about 8.8% of the population in South Dakota. And in May of 2022, a federal judge had agreed with the Rosebud Sioux and Oglala Sioux tribes, stating that South Dakota had violated portions of the National Voter Registration Act, which had been signed by President Clinton in 1993 and took effect in 1995. The law requires state officials to provide voter registration information and guidance to eligible voters when they renew their driver's licenses at the Department of Motor Vehicles or when receiving public assistance. The lawsuit essentially says that the state did not make it a priority to include voters' registration forms with those programs, and therefore it suggested a level of voter suppression. So, Chimigwich to ICT, Indian Country Today, for that awesome coverage. That article I was just talking about was by Stu Whitney, South Dakota News Watch, and reposted on Indian Country Today for that information. You can check out more on indiancountrytoday.com and always tune in here to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake for news on local, national, and regional news wherever you can. And before I forget, go to understandnativemn.org and look for the book giveaway for Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults if you are an educator and you would like to get a copy of that book for your classroom. Chimigwich, and have a great day, everybody.
Wow, Pini Gigi there, Ogama, great news segment as always. I'm going to leave us all here with just a little Obama.
That was the basic foundation of our democracy. That's how it worked. Some sense of mutual respect. We can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's at risk right now. And listen, you may not hear this.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake all over the Civic Media Network. We'll be right back with Bob Blake from Red Lake. Stay with us.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
We are living in a critical time for Indian country. Climate chaos threatens our land, water, and communities. Voting is one way we can protect our planet for future generations. Voting creates a collective power in the fight for our future. Have one-on-one conversations with your friends and family to make sure that they're making informed voting choices. Voting is our voice. This November, NATKI is asking us to stand together and make voting a tradition. Go to makevotingatradition.org to learn more and to make your pledge to vote.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, this portion of Native Roots Radio is brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic, honoring health and tradition. Hey, we haven't seen this groovy guy in a long time. My partner in crime, Bob Blake from Red Lake, owner of Solar Bear. And we usually do the solar news, but I asked Bob to come on a little early so we can talk politics a little bit. And I have some Jen McEwen that we can play and talk about. And also, I got to see Obama and hang out with him for about 7 seconds to get a picture, and then was moved on my merry way. But I was going to ask him a whole bunch of stuff, Bob, and then I ended up just shaking his hand and thanking him.
That was a cool picture, Robert.
Thank you. Some people thought it was fake. It was a cutout or something with Obama. I had to tell him no.
That's the real deal.
Hey,
that was so
it's
cool.
election time, brah. What the heck? It's red alert time. Get our people out. Get out there. Pick people up. Drive them. Pick them up. Let's get it going.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. I mean, we need to get climate champions elected. We need to get people that are going to protect the woman's right to, choose how she wants to, be with herself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we should have politicians deciding on women's health care. And we really need to just get out there and show the strength of, especially what Native country can do, as far as like showing up at the polls, just like we did in Arizona and pushing that state over the line. Oh, they're great job, Navajo Nation.
Exactly. And then we, the last cycle too, Bob, we had 9,000 new Native Americans sign up for the very first time and really help things out here in Minnesota. And hopefully we can have at least half of that come around. And I know your tribe signed up a lot of people to vote in this cycle too.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm trying to think of that group now. That went around to the tribes and got people signed up. But man, a big shout out to those guys. You know who I'm talking about, and they're escaping my mind right now. But they did a wonderful job at getting out the vote, and it was really interesting because
Was it making voting a tradition?
No, it was another group out of South Dakota that showed up and did some really good organizing, and it was really interesting because at the time the Beltrami County was the only county in the United States to vote against refugee resettlement.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think and what happened really was Red Lakers showed up out at the polls that year. It was a couple years ago, and and I was just thinking about like how they showed up at the polls that year for that particular county. And when you looked at the geographics of those votes, it was literally blue. Like the entire tribal nation was blue, and everybody around us was red. But it was like over 90%, 92, 93%, I believe, that was the turnout at the polls. But it was like Red Lake saying, this is something that happened here, but this is not us. You know what I mean? And I could have never been. I mean, I'm very proud to be from Red Lake, but I mean that particular day was just incredible because and then big shout out to my cousin Tim Sumner too, who who stood against the rest of those commissioners up there in Beltrami County and said that this is not who we are, this is not what we stand for, and we should really say that here with our votes. And so and so I mean, that whole situation was bad. I mean, Donald Trump actually went to that county and he did a presidential. He went the little Bill Trump Bemidji did a presidential stop, and I was just thinking to myself, how much division does this guy want to, start?
Hey, Bob, too. And one of the things that was really interesting because I did have your relative on our show, I asked him the question, well, how many how many refugees and how many Latinos or how many people from Mexico come up there? And he said, well, in the last 25 years, 7. So it's just a racial statement by the far right.
Yeah, and and I I mean, I just have to sit there and say to the people of Red Lake, and I mean, man, they just have all the heart in the world. They just, they live in that bubble up there. You know what I mean? So they deal with it on a daily basis, and they continue to do what they have to do. And I have so much pride in them, and I'm so proud of them, the way they handle themselves.
Well, Bob, I'm going to keep you on the whole show, but I got a interview from Jen McEwen, or I shouldn't say an interview. I have a statement from Jen. That's why don't we listen and comment on it? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Hi, everybody. This is State Senator Jen McEwen. I represent Duluth in the Minnesota State Senate, and I want to say thank you so much for the invitation to join you today on Native Roots Radio. I always love coming on Native Roots Radio, and I'm so grateful to Robert and the entire crew at Native Roots Radio for putting on the shows that you do, for bringing people together to talk about such important issues that affect the Native and Indigenous community and all of our communities. And you raise up those issues, and you really provide an amazing forum for all of us to come together. So thanks so much for inviting me. I feel very humbled anytime I'm asked to join all of you. I just wanted to take a quick moment because I represent Duluth in the Minnesota State Senate, and one of the people who has been very influential in my life as a political leader here locally and regionally has been Skip Sandman. And we just saw Skip pass on these last few days. And it's a really hard time in our community to see Skip passing on. He's been a leader to so many people. He's a traditional healer in the community, a real leader for both Indigenous and Native and non-Native people. He has shown such political courage and leadership in our fights for clean water up north. And I know it served as an inspiration for me, and it's also really paved the way for people of color and Indigenous people to also seek office going forward. As many of you may know, Alicia Kozlowski, who is about to become the next state representative representing District 8B in Duluth, is Skip's daughter. So it's sort of bittersweet that we're seeing Skip pass just as Alicia is about to win the race. And we're so proud of Alicia, and but so thankful for Skip's entire family, his wife Babette, and all of them for everything that they give of themselves to make our community a better place. And I know that I and my family have been touched by all the good works that Skip has done, and we're really sad to see him pass. But with that, I also just wanted to extend my thanks to all of you that work on our protecting our clean waters here in northern Minnesota, and who are working in community with so many different people to bring about a more sustainable, a truly sustainable in the long term economics and community for the generations to come, for us and for the generations to come after us. You know, we're facing a true time of climate crisis right now, and ecological crisis, potential ecological collapse, and a lot of that is really scary and can really get you down. But when I think of all of you and all of the good people doing such important work to protect our waters and to build something better for us in community, it gives me hope for the future. And so I want you to know that I will always try to be the best ally that I can be in all of those struggles and fights and celebrations for our community and for building something better to come. And whether that's working for protecting our water in Mississippi watershed, Lake Superior watershed, Rainy Lake watershed, all of our amazing waters here in Minnesota, or whether we're talking about making sure that we have health care for all as a right, whether we have housing, whether our governments are honoring the treaties and are respecting tribal sovereignty, true nation-to-nation sovereignty, as was set out in the treaties. You have an ally in me. And I look forward to our work together in these next years and look forward to the good things to come. So thanks again so much, Native Roots Radio, for all the work you do. Thank you for having me on the program. Thank you for all of the people and all of the issues that you bring. And we'll keep going. We'll keep going. So let's get out the vote this week. And thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was awesome. We're going to take a break. Very, very nice. And yes, that was Jen McEwen up there in the Duluth Way. Up next, Robert Blake and I maybe listen to a few Obama clips and like old times when we were down at the presidential forum. Ho! We'll be right back. Stay with us and vote, 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 vote. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, this is Robert Pilot here telling you about Minnesota Native American art. Did you know that Twin Cities is known for Native art? Well, if you're not familiar, then check out All My Relations Arts. It's a program that seeks to increase the visibility and value of these incredibly talented American Indian artists in all forms of art while honoring the history and the presence of indigenous cultures. And right now, All My Relations Arts is showcasing Rosie Seamus Dance, She Who Lives on the Road to War. This is an immersive installation dance performance created by Rosie Seamus in response to global loss and the collective need to come together in peace and reconciliation. She Who Lives on the Road to War is a place for visitors to rest, grieve, console, and meditate. Performances will take place through mid-December. Find the performance schedule at allmyrelationsarts.com. I love all the indigenous art here in the Twin Cities, and I hope you can enjoy it too. allmyrelationsarts.com.
This is David from The David Pakman Show, where we expose the Hatriots, liars, and Trumpists. Weekdays at 2 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Claire Ferreira, president and owner of Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. My grandfather started Standard over 90 years ago, and we've been a family-owned company ever since, serving over 500,000 of our fellow Minnesotans. I'm proud to be the fourth generation of my family working in our business. And when we say we treat our employees and clients like family, we truly mean it. See how we can help your family stay comfortable all year long at standardheating.com. That's standardheating.com.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
If you're like most people, you probably noticed your energy bills are going up and going up fast. Unfortunately, that's not likely to change anytime soon. So if high utility bills have you seeing red, see green instead by locking in an energy rate with All Energy Solar. Switching to All Energy Solar gives you peace of mind knowing your energy costs won't be rising along with fossil fuel costs. Solar panels last 25 to 30 years, giving you a good idea of where your energy is coming from for decades to come. Plus, a system from All Energy Solar could save you even more with net metering. With net metering, extra energy generated by your solar panels is sent back into the energy grid in exchange for credit on your electric bill. Those credits pay for your energy use on days when solar production is low or your electricity use is high. So declare your independence from the fossil fuel industry by switching to All Energy Solar. Get a free, no-obligation assessment from All Energy Solar by calling 800-620-3370 or visiting allenergysolar.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 59, Thursday partly sunny with a high near 71, and Friday a chance for rain with a high around 44. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. Breakfast favorites include the meat waffle, hippie cakes, and chicken fried steak and eggs, while for dinner try selections like the meatloaf and mushroom ravioli. Hazel's Northeast is located off 29th and Johnson or at hazelsnetogo.com.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, this portion of Native Roots Radio is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, one of our longtime allies here on Native Roots Radio. Hey, I'm here back with Bob Blake, and Bob's working overtime here, the Solar Bear, but he's also my political commentator with me today. That was unbelievable what Jen had to say today. Very nice things about Native Roots Radio, but that she's a ally and fights for water and all those great things up there in Duluth.
Yeah, Robert, I've had some really great conversations with Senator McEwen about policy around renewable energy, tribal nations, getting their own tribal utilities. Just all those really kind of really deep conversations that, obviously like I have on the show and of course, Robert, that I've had with you too. So, but she is definitely an ally of the Native community and does a really great job. I mean, and I'm almost positive she's also an attorney, I believe. So she knows her stuff, man, and she's doing a really great job. And but there's always like, in that little area of Duluth, I mean, you also got some really tough like senators coming out of there, like Tomasino, I mean, or like them or not like them. I mean, they really fight for what they believe in, and Jen is no different there. And it was also really nice to hear about Kozlowski going for the state rep there, and so and I hope to see more natives getting on these state reps and state senator positions, because we have some just really intelligent people in our community, man, who are just really deep thinkers, and it's really exciting to see them getting involved, Robert. And of course, you are you are an elected official also too.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Bob, I'm going to be running down the day after election down to Washington because of the ICWA vote, and I need to stand tall for Ho-Chunk Nation and all our natives all over Turtle Island during the Supreme Court vote. That's going to be possibly detrimental to our sovereignty and all the things that our relatives have fought for many, many years.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's another good a couple of things that I want to say on that. And the first thing is, Robert, you've always, said, especially on this radio show, go out, start a business, start a nonprofit, run for public office, and you've really lived that, and because you just don't say it, you actually did it, and so I admire that so much about you. And the second thing, though, when you're talking about the states, when you're talking about the Supreme Court, it's so sad how that has been weaponized now, by the right, and now they're taking up these cases, um, which I mean, they've been settled long ago, and
Right.
so and I think it's just to cause more division in this country, and the other part about this is just that I mean, we've I mean, it's like President Obama said, we can disagree, but we can agree to disagree, but let's be respectful about it. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and that's what's always made our country so great is because we can disagree, but not take it to that to that limit where I feel like people are going and they're getting nasty, you know what I mean? And we don't need that in our politics. And we especially don't need to be emulating that to the children and to the kids out here. Well, adults, we need to be better than this.
Right. And that law, the ICWA, has been around since what, 1978? I mean, when I was a junior in high school. I mean, and then also Roe versus Wade. I just hope that we come out in what I'm hoping and praying for. We come out in big numbers, and it's really going to rely on our 18 to 39-year-olds to come out and rock the vote, and hopefully they are, because I know you talk to the Gen Zers, they're angry. They're angry at us. Well, Bob, you're not a boomer. I'm a boomer, but at the very end, cusp. But they're angry, and rightfully so. I mean, we talk about. I talk about this all the time. Is that going to college in the '70s, you could work a part-time job in the summer and pay for it, and that's going to the University of Minnesota basically and have a part-time job. Now you got to take out 2 home loans. The Republicans aren't for anything. They shot that down. They shot down Roe versus Wade. They're shooting down all these things that make our country tolerable and great. It's a big, like a big land grab is happening on our laws, and it's amazing to see. And us natives are used to seeing this, and we hope the shoe doesn't fall, or it,
Yeah, no, I mean it really started back with Ronald Reagan, and then
yes,
unfortunately, I mean, as good as Bill Clinton was, I mean, there was a lot of corporate Democrats that you know uh, get jumped into the swamp, and dog paddling with with the Republicans on the deep end. But it's really unfortunate to have seen to see now how far we've fallen. Citizens United, and then and now to this. And I always said this in a lot of talks that I've given. And I've always said that the framers of the Constitution left tribal nations sovereign for this very reason, because they knew at one point in time in the future that a corporate oligarchy was going to try and take over this government. And that's exactly what we've been watching. And so I mean, when you think about that, I mean, that really is, to me at least, especially what happened here recently, a perfect example of why now more than any time we really do need tribal leadership and tribal sovereignty to really stick up for the people when our federal and our state officials fail us.
wow, really good point. And I know you've always talked about this, and I haven't been able to say it as well as you have. But when it comes to our land and our sky and our water, Native Americans are the last line of defense. And I've always that shook me the first time I heard you say that.
Yeah, no, I've always said that, really wanted to point out that, it's always been the right of Native people here to protect Turtle Island. It's been our right, it's our birthright, and we had that responsibility before everyone got here, and we're going to have that responsibility after everyone leaves. So, it's really incumbent upon Native people to really get out and vote, to really run for office, to bring our values to the to politics, because in it's really interesting in like the way we talk, right? The way we talk with English, it's so transactional, and that breeding sweetgrass, really
Right.
touches on this, and how language can really frame your reality, and native language is so beautiful, and in the way that we talk, and it's not as transactional. It's more about how we can all come together and work together. And so I really love it when Native people address a room, and they start out by speaking their native language, because it really does set the tone for that particular room to sit there and put their mind in a different space, and to look at everything differently. And so that's how powerful language is. And so, I
Wow.
mean, I think we need more of that. We need more Native leaders. And how about a Native president? That's what I'm hoping for, Robert.
No doubt. Hey, today uh, I did an opening prayer for the Minneapolis or Hennepin County Library, and I was I introduced myself in the Ho Chunk way, and I also told my name was Distant Thunder, and I also said, and my colonized name is Robert Pilot, and then said the prayer. But you're right, definitely. I'll never forget this, and it was Dana or Deanna was on my show many years ago, and she introduced herself in Ojibwe, and she introduced her whole family, and it was no kidding. It was like I'd say a 2-minute introduction, and I started crying. I mean, it was that emotional where, you know,
Yes, Robert, that's like how beautiful our language is, and how, like, the way that, it's so inclusive, right? And I always think to myself, boy, that was like thousands and thousands of years they spoke it, and the types of problem solving that they had to come up with, in those times, right? And to be able to live, right? And it's just like right now, I think that we need to get back to some of those old ways, and we need to put our mind frame into that kind of mindset of those elders and those old people, because we need it, and we're missing parts, we're missing pieces that's in our language that we think we have in the English language, but we're not. And like I said, I always say that, it's just so transactional, the way we do things, the way we look at things. It's always, how can I make $1? And it just, we really need to rethink how we do this. And I think that would change politics. That will change a lot of the way we do things, Robert.
yeah, definitely. Those are good words, Robert. I know you're working overtime, but we're almost done with the show. Do you mind hanging out another segment? Maybe I could play another clip from our former president and fire us up. What do you think? Excellent. He put the thumbs up, everyone listening on the radio. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm here with Bob Blake.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Bijou, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Hey, this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves. Howling for Wolves is protecting wolves for future generations. How? Oh, wow, you haul a lot better than I do. That was a good one.
That is always my. Remember, that was the first time when we did the first show. Wendy had us howling for wolves, and that was my favorite part.
Yeah, definitely. And then Uncle Curtis too.
Yeah, Uncle Curtis. We went to Iowa. You gave a shirt to one of our senators. Name not mentioned.
Let's get that story straight after the election. Well, hey Bob, I'm kind of playing Russian roulette here with Obama's sound bites here. Do you want to just listen to a few minutes of Obama and then we can comment and wrap the show up?
Absolutely.
Let's check it out. See where I got it here. Hey, Obama, what's up?
Dice Pueda.
On Congress every year. He's called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. Said that it's candy that the left is giving away. The point is, some of you here are on Social Security. Some of your parents are on Social Security. Some of your grandparents are on Social Security. You know why they have Social Security? Because they worked for it. They worked hard jobs for it. They have chapped hands for it. They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
Oh, I miss Obama. That was awesome. Bob.
Incredible.
Yeah, and he was up there for 31 minutes speaking the truth, and I've heard it all over the news, and he's been stumping a couple different places. I think the last place I heard was Arizona, and firing up the troops, firing up the troops.
Well, it's always like this. Democrats are always talking about solutions. They're always talking about, bringing people together, working for a common cause, right? And and we always have the Republicans that are always about the division, And I just want people to start to understand that, this isn't about, especially right now, right? Like this isn't about, that this is about the greater good and what this can really do for everyday Americans. And so, that's what's on the ballot. I mean, literally, that's what's on the ballot. And I just hope that the people show up at the polls this year and let their voice be heard. Because remember, Robert, that government works for us. We don't work for that government. The government works for us. And so it's there to serve the people.
Well, I have to say too, we have a naysayer here that has a national or a local radio show. I'm just seeing his post up here, and he says he doesn't vote elections of his oppressor. Let me tell you one thing, John, and I'll just use your first name. Our ancestors fought for this right to vote. Let me say that again. They have fought for this right to vote, to be a part of this. They already are part of this community. You know, you can say what you want, that you're not a US citizen, but I buy cream soda at the store just like you know, we pay taxes, so when you say that, that's not true. Again, my ancestors fought, and we've only been able to vote for less than 100 years, and that's colonized thinking to me.
Well, and I think, and I think what's been terrible, Robert, and is, the amount of, money that's been cut to the educational system. And we're clearly seeing it now in our society right now. And because you can ask the average American, like, what's the social contract, like, it's the invisible social contract that we all sign, right, to be a part of what we call here this democracy, right?
Yep.
And part of that is getting to the polls, being able to vote, and being a part of a democracy. And so, I mean, I really feel like, that all the cuts that we've had to our educational system over the years, and not only that, but for higher education, right? For charging the exorbitant rates that we are now charging for college. You talked about that, how you went to school just cutting grass on during the summertime or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so nowadays you have to take out a first and second loan, you said. And so, and that's the truth. And so, you know, um, we really need to put an effort back into teaching civics classes again, you know, teaching real world skills. And I don't like people constantly villainizing people who go to school and get a college education. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the trades are just as good. But my point here is that, use being able to use your analytical skills to be able to make, good decisions, in your life, is really important. And so, I just want to just stress that too, that being able to be able to have a college degree is, there's nothing wrong with that either. You know what I mean?
Right. And there's that reversal prejudice of education. You know, people might have been at times looked down on people because they had an education. Now it's the other way around. And it's just like, hey, let people be people. It's not a race to get healthy, rich, best job. It's like whatever you're comfortable with. Uh,
Well,
you
we
know,
we all take this journey though, by ourselves, and we all have to, accept the consequences for our actions, right? And so
mhm.
my whole thing is that the more education, the more we have people using it, or taking advantage of it, and the less stupid stuff we have going on. You know what I mean? And so but getting back to all of this right here, everyone, the important thing here is to just to be able to show up at the polls. Please vote. There's a number of ways to do it. We have great people that are running for secretary, for the governor. There's so many seats that are currently up right now that are really going to affect your future, even if people like the last person here, who disagrees with the way we do things here, and he is allowed to do that. And that's what's great about this country, is he's allowed to express that disagreement. And
Yeah.
but please, get to the polls, have your voice heard, because these people are going to affect your life one way or another.
Exactly. And in my lifetime, Robert, we've been able to practice our own religion, be able to vote, and ICWA, and things like that, that our relatives weren't able to. They weren't
Yes.
able to. That's
Yeah.
cost. about that. They were not able to. We got less than a minute of the show, but I just can't say that over and over again. And, let's vote. Let's vote and get these people in so we can push them in towards our direction, which is happening here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I know you're listening. We're all over Wisconsin. We're on 9 stations. We're on the Civic Media Network. You guys have a plan. Get out and vote. Take people, call Facebook, whatever you do with your relatives, get them out there. If they need a ride to the polls, get them out there, because like Kathleen just posted here on Facebook, voting is power. And that is absolutely right.
I just want to say, Robert, in closing, we're this is still an experiment. Nothing is set. The United States, our government, it's still an experiment. We're still the only multiracial democracy in the world, and I'm proud of that. And I just hope that people are too, and that they get out and they vote, because this is worth fighting for.
We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, and vote. You're listening to Native Roots Radio. Thanks, Bob Blake from Red Lake, and free Leonard Peltier now. Get out and vote.
Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. You'll find high quality